Hope you're all having a good DrupalCon. I need to get my notes in front of me. Okay. So my name is John Alvin Wilkins. I've been a web developer since 1993, which is a really long time. I'm a front-end developer for Anertech. Anertech is a platinum sponsor of DrupalCon. We are also the Irish team that has been running the DrupalCon trivia for years now, as you can tell by my beautiful Irish accent. Yeah, I've actually only been working it for a year, so maybe I'll get that on my second year anniversary or something. Anyway, so I'm going to be talking today about, let me tweak my video here a little bit, the accessibility mistake that our entire industry is making, right? Otherwise known as John Albin's clickbaity DrupalCon presentation, now with Netflix recommendations. The disclaimer here that I should put is that not everyone is making this mistake. There's definitely people in the web development industry that know what I'm about to talk about, but it is a huge sort of misunderstanding that I've made, and I know that most people are making. Before I actually tell you what the mistake is, I'm going to first talk about, if I can get my background to change. Oh, wait. Sorry, there's a slide. Excuses for not building accessibility. So these are very common excuses for why websites aren't accessible when we finish building them. And there are things like not enough money, ran out of time to do it. This is one I unfortunately have used in the past. Accessibility websites are ugly. We don't want to affect the experience of the majority of our users, and people with disabilities make up a small consumer market, right? These are literally just excuses, and I'm going to talk about them more in depth. But actually, you know what? I forgot to say this during my introduction. I want this to be more of a discussion, and I would love for people to chat, which I see people are already doing. But I actually put up a poll already, which you should see. So if you can switch over to the polls, and I'm not sure if how I see the results of this. Oh, okay, I actually have to vote myself. Okay, so if you look over there, there is a poll, and it is just to get things started. Did you see this poll? Right? It's yes, I'm a helpful person. No, I'm a troll. And no, and that's how I bump my head. Right? It's always good to start off a presentation with some puns. I forgot I was supposed to do that poll at the beginning. Oh well. So excuses for not building websites. I'm going to talk about all these points in detail. But I want to start off by talking about who accessibility is for, right? And now we're going to have another poll here, which I'm going to unhide here. Because if we're going to be talking about, if we're going to be making excuses, we should know who we are affecting, right, when we're making the excuses. So I just posted this, another poll here. So take a look at it. It says, I just realized my slides are out of order inside Zoom. Damn it. Fortunately, I don't have very many slides. I just need to find the right one here. There it is. Okay. I'm gonna have to do this every time I look for a slide. Yeah, who's accessibility for? What percentage of people will need website accessibility? And the options are 15%, 25%, 50%, and 100%, right? I see a bunch of you have voted, keep voting. If you were attending other accessibility presentations at DrupalCon this week, you'll probably remember that this question has actually been answered at least twice already this week. On Tuesday, there was a presentation on accessibility by Gennad Masadi, need for web accessibility during a pandemic. And he mentioned a figure of 15% needing accessibility. And I believe that this 15% value is correct. I mean, it's a self-reporting result though, and I think that means it's underreported, right? 50% probably people who are using special software to access websites, right? They're completely aware that they need website accessibility because they're using special software in order to access websites. But the thing is that if you've ever visited a website and you found it like difficult to use because like the font is too small or like the colors are just off or whatever, like you have needed a more accessible website, right? And there's also the fact that like some people turn on accessibility features and then like forget that they're on. They just use them. They're just part of their normal software. So they're not thinking, oh, I'm using accessible software. It's just on. And so when they're surveyed about, do you need accessible websites? They're not really thinking about the fact that they're being helped by accessibility software. For example, somebody who uses a keyboard to navigate a website may not be thinking that he's doing anything special to access that website, right? I actually need accessibility when I listen to podcasts because I'm deaf in my left ear. And if there's a podcast that's in stereo with like, you know, the one side of the conversation in the left channel and one side of the conversation in the right channel, I can't hear those conversations because I'm literally missing half of the conversation. But you know, my phone has a fix for that, right? Which is there's a button on there that actually will take stereo sounds and smush them into a mono sound, and then play that in both ears. And so I get accessible podcasts because of the software. And I would never think, oh, do you use special accessibility software? Well, yeah, I do, but like it's actually part of the phone, and is that really special? And I just wouldn't self count myself as needing accessibility, right? So this 15% that's being reported is definitely an undercount. There was one other presentation on Monday by Priyanka Jeff, who gave a presentation, A Better Experience for Everyone, Accessibility. And she gave what I believe is the correct answer here, which is everyone. 100% of people will need website accessibility. And this is a little bit of a trick question, right? Because I said, what percentage of people will need website accessibility, meaning like any time in their life? And sometimes people have like surgeries or accidents or whatever, and they need like accessible software just temporarily, like can't use your arms or whatever after an accident or whatever. And so you're using like voice software to traverse it, right? And you know, that's just temporary. And then you can recover from that, and then you're not using the same software anymore, which is fine. And then there's also the fact that we are all getting older. I hit 40 and discovered that the warranty on my eyes had expired. Right. I used to have 20/20 eyesight, and now I take off my glasses, and y'all are blurry. So, like, I need a more readable website. I need bigger fonts and more contrast. And those are all ways that everyone is gonna need accessibility in their websites, right? So now I gotta go switch slides, which means that I gotta find the right slides. Stupid Slack switched. So this one. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about accessibility mistake our entire industry has been making. I actually figured this out during 2020 because I, like many people, was watching a lot of Netflix, right? Um, Netflix released a documentary that was nominated for an Academy Award called Crip Camp. Um, and this, I mean, it should have won the Academy Award. Don't get me started about my octopus teacher, because I will rant for like the rest of this time. But anyway, it's a groundbreaking film. Crip Camp, I mean, is it is one of the best films that I've ever seen, and I don't mean just documentaries. I mean, it is one of the best films of any kind that I have seen. I've seen it about 6 times, and I see something new in it every time I watch it. The film is set. Oops, slide change. Boop. The film is set in 1971 in the US. And when I first watched it, I wasn't sure exactly what I was getting into. Camp Gennad in 1971 was this summer camp for kids with disabilities to go and just have fun. Like it was full of kids with various disabilities, like spina bifida, cerebral palsy, polio, sometimes just being paraplegic from accidents, any kind of disability. Kids were more than welcome to join them, to join at the camp. And the counselors who helped run the camp, they just wanted kids to have the chance to be normal teenagers, just do the normal things that teenagers are supposed to do: swimming, sports, crafts, hanging out, making music, going out for ice cream, right? Um, and the kids that joined this camp got a chance to do things that the rest of the world wasn't letting them do. Many of the places in the US actually had laws on the books that would forbid people with disabilities from being in public because it made other people uncomfortable. One woman in the film describes how she wasn't allowed to go to public school, like elementary school, because she was in a wheelchair, and they told her that she would be a fire hazard. Right? The ways that society allowed people with abilities to participate was incredibly limited. And these teenagers were just having normal teenager experiences at this camp. And they started talking, and it's 1971, and they realized that they could learn a lot from what was happening in the civil rights movement that was also going on in the US at this time. So they started talking with each other, and then when they went home, they actually started organizing and fighting for their rights as disabled people to just live and exist and participate in society. It's a beautiful film, and I highly recommend watching it. And there's several takeaways that I had from watching the film. The first is that there's 2 reactions that are described in the film when disabled people encounter barriers in the world. The first is acceptance that this is just the way things are. These barriers close off a part of the world to them. It literally makes the world smaller, both in terms of what they can get to physically and by limiting what they can dream is possible. This is heartbreaking, right? The other reaction that people have when they encounter these barriers is they get angry, right? And they start to fight against these injustices. But even this reaction it's harmful to these persons because it takes a huge mental toll. I've got a quote here. Says from Judith Human, who says, "I'm very tired of being thankful for accessible toilets. If I have to be thankful about an accessible bathroom, when am I ever going to be equal in the community?" Right? again, watch this film. It is so good. When I finished this film, and I got to look for the next slide. I think it's this one. When I finished this film, I immediately realized that these lessons apply to building websites. The fight for accessibility is a fight for civil rights. And I don't want to be on the wrong side of this issue. When we are making inaccessible sites, we're saying that some people don't belong, right? This is the mistake that I think too many people are making, including me, in the web development industry, right? Let's go back and hit those excuses for not building accessibly again now. Not enough money, like, really? HTML is accessible by default. Right? When you're adding features on top of that that are inaccessible, that's you creating problems first, right? You can build those same things without problems, and then it doesn't cost more money. You just decided to build it correctly from the beginning. It's like trying to, literally like trying to build a house where you build a whole house and then you think about accessibility. Well, that's a dumb way of making it. It makes things more expensive. You don't build a house and then add elevators and escalators and ramps and everything. You do it while you're building the house the first time. Not enough money. You ran out of time. This is the same thing. Like, I've done this a whole bunch of time. And again, this is a process problem, right? If I'm building stuff and then coming back afterwards to look at accessibility, I've done things in the wrong order. It's not that I've run out of time. It's that I built it the wrong way. Accessibility websites are ugly. This is just silly, right? Learn how to design stuff properly, really. We don't want to affect the experience of the majority of users. Same thing. This is just a rationalization, right? The experience of all users should be considered, right? And people with disabilities make up a small consumer market. Yeah, except that accessibility is for everybody, right? That's 100% of the people. So I gotta find my next slide here. At the beginning of this presentation, I said that this I said that I put out a disclaimer that not everyone in the industry was making this mistake, right? If you looked at the disability rights movement, of course, website accessibility is a civil right. That seems obvious if you looked into it. After the disability rights movement in the US fought to get laws passed and then enforced, the digital accessibility laws were created as amendments to the physical accessibility laws. It's all one long civil rights movement. It's part of the same thing. There are people in the web development industry that have been making this point about website accessibility being a civil right. They weren't making that mistake. It's just that we weren't listening. When I started prepping for this talk, I started searching for web industry talks that make this point because I knew they existed. In 2017, I actually found a DrupalCon Europe presentation by Everett Zufelt, a frequent Drupal contributor, an accessibility advocate, and a blind website developer. He gave a talk about called JavaScript and Accessibility, Don't Blame the Language, which, by the way, is still a really, really useful talk to watch today. There are lots of really good accessibility techniques that you can learn from it. And in the talk, Everett has a slide that says, accessibility is a human right. As you can tell, I was in the audience of that talk in Vienna. I was live tweeting what he was saying. I heard what he said. I made this tweet about what he said. and then I forgot. Um, it's embarrassing, right? Because I know Everett. I've had multiple in-person conversations with him, and it took a movie about people I don't know for me to finally get this information to sink in. Uh, it's okay to make mistakes as long as you admit it and you show that you're willing to change. So, to Everett in particular, and to everyone, because accessibility is your civil right. I'm sorry. I'm not going to prioritize my lame rationalizations above your rights. And I promise to do better. And I hope that everyone who helps build websites, who watches this presentation, will also promise to do better. So thank you. I've got one more poll, which I just posted, and it's just sort of like a reminder for yourself. Answer it whenever you get. But I will answer questions now. And let's see what we got in the Q&A. Yeah, where can I download the slides and session recording? So on Twitter, I will be posting these slides in the correct order. And the session recording, actually, there's a tab on the left-hand side, under like networking, expo, and BOF, and then replay. You can see the whole session if you click down there, right? And then I think they get posted publicly in like a month or something like that. So, yeah. Thank you, everyone. This is a presentation I've been thinking about for a long time, and I'm glad that I was able to give it. And thank you for coming.